So let's continue with the track. Once again, I wanted to thank you guys for being here. We're going to have a panel now, and all our lovely panelists are here. I'm going to let Craig do the introductions because he knows better, and we are old colleagues, so I can make the jokes. So we have been talking about hypercasual throughout this afternoon, and for a long time we have been saying, oh, it is a fad, it's going to go away, it never happened. I think at this point we can all agree that it's clearly not a fad, it's clearly very successful, and we have these lovely people here that prove that 100 times more that it's really successful. So we're going to be discussing today what gives it longevity, how you can be successful as well. So maybe next year you're all here as well, earning money, right? Please give a big hand to the panelists and to Craig, that is going to be our moderator.
Thanks, Patty. Yeah, it's good to be. Firstly, it's good to be back at Pocket Gamer Connects. I think my first conference in 2 years in person, so this is really quite nice. Bit different to seeing you all on Zoom. So yeah, our panel today is going to be what is giving hypercasual its longevity and the recipe for a successful game. So quite a broad topic, but we've got some experts luckily here. So we've got experts from HOMA Games, Lion Studios, Kwalee, and SOFTGAMES. So the bit I haven't done is quickly, before that, I'll introduce myself. So as Patty said, Craig Chapple, I used to be the PocketGamer.biz editor. So I've been to many a PGC. Currently work at Sensor Tower as a mobile insight strategist. I, again, still write about games, luckily, just using our data. But the interesting people are to my left. So we'll start with Tamara, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm from Lion Studios, leading business development team. I've been in the industry for more than 7 years, and for the last couple of years, like more than 3, actively involved in the hyper-casual market, talking to multiple studios around the world, scouting, validating teams' potential, games' potential, and actually helping those teams and those games to reach out top charts and to actually be successful. Yeah, that's about me.
Ryan?
Cool. Hello, I'm Ryan Davies. I'm head of digital marketing at Kwalee. So I've been with Kwalee for 5 years. Basically started at the company when we were about 20 people. We're now over 200. And so I'm responsible for our user acquisition, ad monetization, and creative teams. So I've been lucky enough to kind of be involved in hypercasual since its inception and been part of the roller coaster ride that has been involved with it the whole time, really. So that's me.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Alexander Krug. I'm co-founder and CEO of SOFTGAMES. Doing this crazy ride since more than 20 years already, which is incredible when I think about it. So today, SOFTGAMES is an instant gaming company. We create like casual social games, truly social games, basically. We focus on Facebook, so our main KPI is virality. So we actually call our hyper-casual games even hyper-social games.
All right, thanks. Yeah, hi, I'm Victor. So I'm leading the business development team and partnership at HOMA Games. So I guess it's been a hell of a ride. I don't have that much experience compared to you guys because I've been only at HOMA for 2 years now. But arrived in the company when we are 30 and now 120. So I guess there was a lot of evolution, and yeah, was really happy to be there.
I think in hypercasual, 2 years is a long time, right? It's not, how long is hypercasual?
Feel like
it feels like a million years.
Technically been around. I thought I'd quickly start with just some data. So since obviously we do estimates. So just very quickly to kind of set the scene before we kind of open up to the panel. Obviously, so in 2019, according to our estimates, downloads for just hyper-casual games, these are the ones that we tag, worldwide there were 7.5 billion downloads. And then in 2020, obvious reasons, there was a huge surge in downloads. So that went up by approximately 59% to 11.9 billion downloads. And then in 2021, that globally at least, that went up again 15% to 13.7 billion downloads. So I think in the US it shrunk, but globally it's still on the rise. And interestingly, revenue's up, so about 148 million globally. This is just player spending, so not the all-important ads in 2019. Then went up 28% to 189 million in 2020, and then it's actually jumped to nearly 231 million, so up another 22% in 2021. So clearly there's a market that's still growing. It's not the apocalypse that we thought it might be after IDFA, but we'll get to that one. But yeah, so clearly we saw a lot of growth, at least on a global level. So what impacts have you seen kind of really from the pandemic and lockdowns, and how has that continued into 2021 and to 2022? Tamara?
So there's multiple factors that's impacting, and actually our colleague from Meta Audience Network actually did a great job by listing all those things. So IDFA, iOS 14. So a lot of stuff that is impacting marketing side, because hyper-casual is very much about like business formula. Like your CPI should be lower than LTV. So if your CPI is growing and it's getting harder and harder to acquire new users, then it's one thing. And one of the solutions that you can do, and the challenges that we're facing is like how to make our products, like our games, not actually products, but how to make games more engaging. And this is also questions that we as publishers are asking ourselves, and we're raising those questions to our developers, the teams that with whom we work. So yeah, I don't want to go far deeper there. I think my colleagues is going to share.
I mean, first of all, I think like obviously COVID was a huge opportunity for the whole mobile gaming industry, and then of course hyper-casual, because there was plenty of people stuck at home playing video games. So I guess obviously we saw like a huge impact on the market, a huge positive impact first of all. So that was definitely an opportunity there, like more people, way more games, and we could see that like again in 2 years everything has changed. Yeah, there's new competitors, I mean new publishers, new studios everywhere, acquisition, so it's definitely going up. And of course IDFA was a let's say a turn in the industry. I think same here, it's you know, the shift toward maybe more Android testing versus iOS due to that I think we thought that it was going to be like impact our industry that much, and actually didn't really. So I guess everything was positive for me for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'd agree with, I guess veering towards the IDFA stuff, and the fears that everyone had is that for in some ways people were predicting that hyper-casual might be the biggest impacted, when the ad revenue side would maybe have a negative impact. But yeah, I'd agree that really there wasn't too much of a change for the way that we're running UA and monetization activities. Like, I think there was a brief scary period where Facebook shit the bed and things kind of got a little bit out of hand and became much more difficult to basically run the kind of game discoverability element of like hyper-casual, of course, which is like a crucial part. But I think that, Facebook sorted themselves out a little bit, things became a bit more stable, and now, releases now in the hyper-casual land are just as common as they've kind of always been. They're still regular, coming out all the time from different publishers. So, outside of that brief period, I really haven't seen a huge shift in the way that things like, removal and deprecation of IDFA have impacted stuff. And I think that's mostly just due to Apple not keeping a very good eye on UA activity going on.
You heard it here first, last, depending on what part of the industry. And so you're saying there's no change in strategy at all, really. So people should kind of, whatever the user acquisition strategies were before IDFA, is it the same? Do you pick up users the same way organically, or when you're paying for user acquisition now, or if it's changed, a different reason?
I think the fundamentals are there still, right? Like the stuff, the systems and the way we run things, what we look for is still there. The IDFA has not hugely shifted how we treat. Now the metrics we look for, the things we want to identify, maybe that's adapted. And to be fair, that's always changed and grown and evolved during the lifetime of hyper-casual over the years.
Yep.
You know, there's lots of things that impact what CPIs we look for, or what kind of LTVs we're expecting, and things like that, right? So IDFA is another thing, but there's many that have changed those numbers up and down the slider.
I mean, I know. Sorry. I was actually going to say, I know, Kwalee, you've previously said that you kind of target, you make games that are, I guess this is normal for hyper-casual, but as broad an audience as possible.
Yeah.
And I know that the industry with IDFA was talking a bit more about IPs and stuff, but is even that, like, nothing's changed there? You can still release fresh IP?
Well, this is part of it, right? This is part of the, sorry, I feel like I'm hogging. So, you know, this is part of, I guess part of what's made it sustainable is that broad appeal, right? Like, of course, an IAP-driven game is relying within their user acquisition much more on targeting users in a much more effective, detailed way. We can be a bit more broad about the way we're doing things. Of course, there's a bit of misconception about hyper-casual being really basic user acquisition, which is absolutely not the case. But like a lot of the stuff that went away is not the elements of UA that we were focusing on, and so yeah. But I'm more than happy for anyone to disagree.
I am not.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. Like, I'm disagreeing because CPIs have grown like multiple times. If we were looking our benchmark a year ago, it was 20 cents Android and 30 cents iOS. These days, I have on my chart $+ And even if I'm looking in the Facebook CPI, anywhere iOS or Android, I'm still keeping in mind that Facebook is not the real, I have to keep something in mind, and I cannot kill the game or make any suggestions on the game based only on CPI. So that's a drastic change. I don't know, it is either if you are saying, I trust you, that IDFA and marketing hasn't changed much, but at the same time, market has changed and it is shifted and it matured a lot, and especially CPI part. So maybe it's not the same for networks, but it is for Facebook. And yeah.
I mean, I think it was, I totally agree with what you said. There was definitely an impact on the CPI. But I think it was really a good thing then, because we completely shift toward making CPI decision, toward looking for more data to take a decision on games, looking at retention, looking at playtime, and before we're just analyzing that CPI. So the rise of it shifted our attention toward other metrics, so we could get this global overview. And publishers were ready to take more risk in publishing games with higher CPI because you could look at other metrics that were interesting. And before, I think it wasn't the case, actually. At least less.
Yeah, I have to agree. Basically, for us as well, so instant games is only happening on Facebook, basically. So for us, it was the IDFA change was the best that could ever happen, because now basically Facebook gets through our games and all the other developers who are on Facebook. The data they're basically missing out now on iOS because they know exactly, okay, hey, these people are playing solitaire games and whatever, so they can really play targeted ads out. And from our UA side, it's the same. I can just agree to this. We saw also fluctuating CPIs at the end of the day, but for us today, also CPI doesn't matter anymore because we just target completely differently, or we just say, we don't have a CPI benchmark, and that way it's for us whatever. We can pay even $5 for a user if he brings later on $5.50 or whatever. So we have just completely shifted the way how we acquire users away from just CPI focused more toward a goal, let's say, or an event or whatever it is at the end of the day.
You have some interesting ways of acquiring users, because from instant games, I think you were calling it hyper social. So can you? I don't know how common.
Yeah, it's
another buzzword, but they all have meaning, right? So could you explain a bit about that and how that kind of helps you acquire users?
Yeah, sure. So basically, let's think about 2009, back when Zynga did Farmville and this kind of stuff. Everything was about K-factor virality, and then that was kind of bad. Now it's back, but it's better than it used to be because it's kind of opting in to this kind of like virality part. So how we acquire users is a mix of organic and bought traffic or purchase traffic, basically. So it's like this, that our games, as said, like are hyper social, but basically means that they are super competitive. So you play a session, and then Facebook gives you a lot of tools that you can post your score into the feed of others. And the more people are basically participating in the tournament, the better it is for the visibility of your game, of your hyper casual, hyper social, whatever game you want to call it. So the more people you acquire, the more people are playing, the better at the end of the day. And so it's growing like crazy. And basically, my brother has a call afterwards where we explained like how we scaled like one of our top games from 1 million MAU to 8 million within just a period of 3 months. And it's still growing like crazy, actually. So yeah, so Facebook is kind of back when it comes to social, to the social part.
Is some of that kind of social growth kind of in some ways exclusive to those instant games, or are you finding other ways of finding users through social avenues?
It is existing in hyper-casual. It's just very expensive and complicated and long development cycle to integrate real
Virality factor?
Yeah, so it's fake, like what we have bots in our games. So like in hyper-casual, like even runners, or it might be... yeah. So we have it. It's just we don't have it like real PvPs. But yeah, social element is very important in all the games, not only in mid-core or instant games. People like there is specific type of games and like specific type of audience who likes to compete and who wants to be like when you are winning someone, it's a higher reward, like just a pleasant feeling of that rather than you just won, like you completed the level, for example.
So, different question, but has the way that hyper-casual games monetize changed at all? Say over the last couple of years, or last year, a few months, kind of whenever. I mean, obviously they're generally powered by ads, but are there any other any monetization methods you're now using successfully, or maybe you're just using ads in a different way? Victor?
Yeah, I mean, on my side, there's definitely a shift because there was, a new genre of game, and especially the rise of hybrid casual with arcade idle games. And obviously, arcade idle games are, again, you make a game very simple in the playability and the understandability, so it's hyper casual, but you're taking, meta content and feeders from, let's say, more mid-core game. So again, you find yourself with a game with RPG, stuff and customization and so on. And obviously in those kind of games, then in-app purchase has risen so much. I mean, just to give you an example, like in Farmland, one of the top arcade idle game that we publish at HOMA, like in-app purchase is representing more than 30% of the revenue generated. So which for a hyper casual that usually stay like 5% or below, it was like massive. And obviously the more we can publish this kind of game, and again, going back to what I said before, is we're aiming for retention and playtime games rather than CPI. And adding in-app purchase features allows you to have your players stay on the game, because if they're if they're making expenses in your game, then they will want to stay and continue playing it. So definitely, was definitely a shift in those kind of.
Something else I'd add probably is just even when what we currently do in ad monetization, I think elements have changed and evolved. Like, I think in some ways, generally, all of us tend to be a lot more demanding these days into what we want and what games need to perform in order to do well. Like I know, a few years ago, if I believed and saw the LTVs we are able and our competitors are able to achieve now, I wouldn't have believed it like a few years ago, perhaps, and definitely I would have been surprised that I'd be demanding the kind of LTVs from games that I need now. So that's, I mean, I was kind of interested, Tamara, you're talking about, CPIs being tougher to get like lower on Facebook, but I also wonder if, if we're willing to accept slightly higher CPIs on Facebook as well as kind of maybe struggling to find the slightly lower ones, because I think, as a hyper casual section these days, we we tend to be pushing the boundaries and the limits quite a lot on what you can achieve from ad monetization and what LTVs we're able to get. And so, you know, okay, maybe once upon a time we needed a 20-cent CPI from a game, but maybe nowadays we're willing to push that boat a little bit and accept that, you know, we can take a higher CPI on Facebook, but we're expecting like a very strong LTV from that game, and that's maybe something that's shifted.
Exactly what I was saying, that our benchmark is $1 plus. So it means that we're assuming that the game will have $1 plus LTV. In terms of ads formats, like we don't have much, like not ads formats, but monetization in general. So there was interstitials that are interfering user experience. There are rewards that are helping player to progress within the game and actually unlock some unique features and content. There's banners, which is like just a small amount, like it's 10% maximum out of a whole LTV, depends on the game, of course. There is in-app purchases that like 30% is actually really cool benchmarks, because in hyper-casual, usually it's not more than 1% of all the users that you are acquiring. Of course, the more you're running CPA campaigns, specifically targeting purchase, the higher it will be in your revenue structure. But I would like to mention also that we have, like not we, but in general, industry is looking for new technologies, and audio ads actually is doing pretty well these days. So audio ads, there is branding ads, so you might just, it's a runner, you can see a billboard and there will be some Coca-Cola or any other brand, or there are some even clickable. Today I was in the meeting, they probably should give me some percentage, but you can even buy some products in the game without leaving the game, which is, I don't know how successful it will be, and how, like, if it stays actually, and if it wins the market, but any sources, any means in this war for high LTV definitely doing a good job there.
Some of these technologies sound like they're going to be done for the Metaverse. So Metaverse influencing hyper-casual. But you mentioned a lot of types of ads there. Are there any kind of best performing ads that you find, or is it really just kind of, is in types? So you've got your interstitials, your banners, and that. Or is it just depends on the game and what really suits that? Or
yeah, it depends on the genre. Puzzles usually heavily monetizes with interstitials, like idols with rewards, like idle arcades with rewards. Runners, it's purely, not always, but also interstitials. Then like some arcades, it might be 30% of rewards, 70 of interstitials. Yeah.
I suppose that is an element that's changed a little bit. Actually, now you talk about it, it reminds me, you know, I feel like a few years ago, rewarded video was definitely had a lot more focus placed upon it, I think, from publishers and developers. But the gap in CPM between rewarded and interstitial is definitely decreased to a point where that's not maybe prioritized and focused in quite the same way. So yeah, I don't know, that's kind of an interesting one. I mean, my assumption is the rewarded, you know, a few years ago, there was kind of the Facebook audience network boom, and rewarded video was earning everyone loads of money. And, you know, maybe that's shifted and changed. They still do. They still do. Yeah, oh God, I'm in trouble now.
We're not starting another apocalypse.
Yeah. But yeah, of course, it still works well. But yeah, you know, I think it's different now. Interstitial kind of has a stronger place. You know, all the ones you mentioned then, I think, you know, they still all have interstitial as their primary placement in many cases. Maybe, I guess there's certain ones that rewarded sticks out like a sore thumb quite nicely.
Yeah, and users are okay with that.
Yeah.
So yes, like as soon as like when the player sees first interstitial, yes, you might see higher churn there on that specific level, but as soon as he stays, it probably will be affecting further. So, and it's in 99% is almost not affecting your attention. So people, like our players, our audience, so used to it that it's not bad anymore. It's just a way of monetizing, and players are okay with that.
Sorry, Alexander.
I mean, like I have to say, like as well, like we made like the same kind of like evolution at our end as well. Like we've been like very careful with like rolling out the interstitials because of like, okay, does it affect retention or not? At the end of the day, we see the same on Facebook as well, and in the instant games space. Interstitials are bringing a better CPM at the end of the day. So we also going more towards, let's say, like kind of a balance between both rewarded and interstitials, but no ads, banner ads.
Victor, you mentioned about in-app purchases, 30%. When you get to that level, are you still really calling it hyper-casual? Is that still the design? Or are you calling it arcade idle or hybrid casual, if that's still a thing since Archero? I don't know, but yeah, like...
I mean, again, I think hyper-casual is just I think for me and for us, it's like hyper-casual, it means the simplicity of playing it. Like, yeah. Can you understand it well in 5 seconds? Can you play it well, in 5 seconds? And like just having a maximum of free movement with your thumbs, and that's it, right? And that's what Arcade Idle is about. Kind of, you're just controlling a character that is doing automated actions to cut trees, to fight monsters, or whatever. So in a sense, for me, it's still hyper-casual. We're calling it a hybrid because, of course, we're taking more, again, features, and you have like so many mechanics, and there is the idle behind it. You're exploring, you're building your stuff, and you have to come back to gather the resource and so on. So I don't see why we would need a really, dedicated name for that.
I think like basically, like this such high in-app purchase rate is basically everything like everybody's looking for at the end of the day, if it's like a normal casual game or a hyper-casual game. Because at the end of the day, it shows that people are really dedicated to the specific game, and that means they are coming back. So head retention, gameplay time, session time, and so on. So on, it's like super high. And I think like when you look right now to a hyper-casual, let's say like genre in general, you see like more and more developers picking up, let's say, implementing this kind of retention features, which is more going towards, okay, how can we keep them longer and afford the high CPIs and so on.
And I think like they really see like a much more, like a bigger impact on what they buy in an arcade idle, because it really changed your experience, like in terms of what you can do, in terms of energy that you have, in terms of resource, in terms of how much you can explore in a day or whatever, rather than on classic hyper casual where there's except customization, it's really or no ads things. There's like clearly not much room, to have.
Do you mind if I ask a question, Craig?
Go for it.
So I'm kind of interested from you guys, like, do you, like, is a focus on, say, hybrid casual or arcade or whatever, is it very much like a purposeful goal, a drive, or is it something that happens more as a reaction to what you're receiving from developers and people like that? Yeah, I'm kind of interested in how you guys, is it reactionary or kind of getting ahead of the curve?
It's a philosophical question how to call idle arcade, or what is hyper casual. So I would want to go into that direction, honestly. What I want to say is we at Lion Studios, we stopped making prototypes. So what we are doing these days is the main shift, is we're making games, and we are pushing our developers to make games, not like small builds with 1 or 2 levels or 5 levels, even with 5 levels. It's not enough these days. You need to have a clear vision on your game, how it is going to retain on a day 0, what players are going to do during the first 10 minutes of their session, how many sessions we are going to have, what is going to bring them back on the first day, on the 3rd day, on the 7th day, because we do need to monetize them. And developers need, before going into actually making the game, they have to think through it, because it will be impacting their whole development cycle. And it's not hybrid casual, it's just it's just a game development process. And I see it as the only way of succeeding in this market, because in this stage, your art don't have to be necessarily polished. but your first user experience has to. And you need to analyze a lot. You need to know what is your funnel. Like, you need to integrate a lot of events. You need to check what your player is interacting with. So that's also covering quite a lot. But if all of that is actually simple game design. Like, all the game designers should be doing that. And hyper-casual before was luckily, or I don't know, accidentally living without that for like some time at least. Like, on the later stages, of course, it was existing, but on the very early stage, it was not. So right now, I think we're just bringing back a good habits into our everyday work, into evaluating game ideas, validating those ideas, and actually building roadmaps more thoroughly in smarter ways.
I mean, to answer your question, right, I think it's like Arcade Idol came like as an answer to maybe two shifts for me in the industry. The first one is that we saw many publishers and studios saw that the public wanted more quality games, right? And to make more quality games, you need more time. And there was, first of all, a shift like that. So we adapted to the market, and Arcade Idol was one of the solutions to bring more quality games to the public. And on the other end, we saw that lots of developers were really tiring of this full volume strategy of like, okay, let's make hundreds of prototypes every month, like just quick videos, 1 or 2 levels, and let's just test it and test it. And developers were super tired. They were, I think, creatively exhausted by this kind of model. And they were asking to have way more flexibility on the target they would deliver to their publisher in making games. And so the combination of those two shifts pushed, I think, like us to think creatively and find new kind of games to satisfy developers on working on more complex games, and also satisfy the public so they can play on more quality games, in a sense.
You know, something I kind of love about hypercasual is that I've found over the years there always seems to be a place for like all these thoughts or all these like divergence and changes. You know, like on one hand, yeah, like these more elaborate higher LTV games are becoming prominent for sure, but and you know, we're all aiming for them and working on them, right? But on the other hand, I feel like it would be wrong to say that the more simplistic, concept-driven, you know, basic hyper-casual games are not still very important and prominent, right? Like the charts are still full of them. They still maintain in the charts well, which is, you know, usually the biggest positive sign of something that's got more long-term sustainability. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I love that on one hand we can try these new things and push and try and evolve, but also, you know, some of this.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm still for simplicity.
Yeah.
It's like games with single mechanics still existing, right? And so, yeah, it's just like you still need to think about that. You still need to give a player some variety. Yes. And even monetization strategies should be thought through, etc. So, yeah, if you want to make less prototypes and be less frustrated, you need to spend some time on thinking.
When you talk about the prototype phase, or kind of before you decide to launch a game, are there any benchmarks specifically that you might all look for? So that could be in the testing phase or the soft launch, if there's a soft launch phase, of, you know, retention or anything. You know, are there any particular benchmarks that you're looking at that you're going to go, okay, this is a game we're going to launch and we know it will do well?
I mean, I guess right now there wouldn't be, at least at HOMA here, there wouldn't be any strict benchmark again, because we're passed over the, 25 cents CPI or below, obviously, because like I said, we're studying like all the metrics, right? So one metrics in itself does not really matter in the decision. But I'd say there's obviously, how do you say, like indicators, obviously. So, like for example, any games with a CPI below 60 cents would definitely be interesting and have some potential. But again, you need to weigh this decision with the playtime and with the retention. Obviously, a retention between 30 to 40% is an extremely good indicator. A playtime over 5 to 15 minutes is extremely good indicators. So yeah, you definitely have to get that, get all the metrics in mind to take your decision. Obviously, and for Kwalee, obviously the metrics are a bit higher because you're expecting a higher CPI, but you're expecting a higher retention and a higher playtime. But that's overall the same decision process.
Okay. Anything else? It might be.
Just to add, there are some also benchmarks in terms of number of sessions.
Yeah, any KPIs.
Number of sessions, better to have a 2+, and in a funnel, especially first 5 levels could be not less, if it is not less than 85%, then you're in the right direction. If it is smaller, then you want to take a look. What is your fail rate? What is the time spent on each level? All of that kind of important.
And obviously, I don't know, for instant games, there might be...
Yeah, instant games is completely different. That's the thing, is when I think okay, should I share something or not? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it took us a while, to be honest, really to find kind of a pattern, what makes a hit game and what doesn't make a hit game. And we're still trying to figure out, to be honest. It's kind of at the end of the day, for us, it's important their shareability. That's the key factor. So, how engaged are people within the game? Are they really, let's say, sharing their scores with their friends? Basically, do the people are coming back? Do they share it as well? So this kind of key factor thing once again. Retention numbers on instant games are completely different from the app stores. I'm not really sure if I can I'm not sure if I can share, because Facebook is even not sharing these numbers.
Right.
But they're completely different, and I think everybody who is moving on the platform, they will say, oh my God, how can this work? But hey, it works because there are other factors which kind of where the developer can benefit from at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it's more or less the same. It's kind of the playtime, retention in general, and so on and so on. So yeah, I mean, we're figuring out. Let's say like this.
All right. All right. So, I mean, I've still got some other questions I could ask, but I just wanted to, we've got a few minutes left, open it up to the audience. If anyone has a burning question. Hypercasual, hybrids, arcade idle. This is very shy. I mean, I didn't ask any questions when I sat there, to be fair.
I have a question, if I can, while people are warming up for this. During our track today, we had, for example, Snapchat talking about games for Snap, that is quite similar to Facebook as well. We have been talks throughout the conference about hypercasual on Metaverse, like Krug mentioned. There is hype with new things. So my question was, what do you think it's going to be the natural evolution of hypercasual in the future? Will other platforms pop up? Will there be other opportunities for people? What should people expect of the future? I didn't make it easy.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. Because, I mean, things from the inside, it feels like things have evolved a lot and changed a lot over the last few years, or last 4 or 5 years, within hypercasual. But, like I said at the beginning, I do feel like the fundamental aspects of hypercasual are there. Like I said, quick, fun, easy gameplay with an ad that can attract your attention in a few seconds, right? This is the fundamental one. And I don't think that will change, because at that point it's not hyper casual, so that's the same. I don't know what you guys think about completely different platforms and things. It doesn't feel like that's moving outside of mobile, but I can't see different spaces.
Yeah, I see what we've seen basically is on instant games that all the hyper casual publishers, or not all, but the majority, like Voodoo and Gizmart and so on, and they're basically looking onto new platforms like Snapchat or even Facebook as well. But we have seen so many people coming and going again because, as I said, it's completely different from the app space, let's say. Rather than that, I mean, other platforms, I would say what we've seen so far is that the complexity of the games will like the games get more complex. I think that's something what we've discussed here as well. Okay, but yeah, I don't know what's next. Zoom games? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that might actually be a thing.
It's actually there. That's the thing. I wasn't coming, but I know it feels unnatural.
Good ones.
There are Zoom games out there.
I'm gonna play it right after. I think hyper-casual will never die because there will be always new players, right? I mean, it sounds simple, but I guess that's the truth. The goal is for us, I mean, again, as a publisher and studio, is to explore any kind of opportunity. And what's good is really diversifying your portfolio of game. Because in a way, everyone's, like what we want is to build like an inverted pyramids where you have your blocks of hyper-casual games and then you can, you know, trickle your players into more casual, you know, Arcade Idol and then casual and so on. And I think that's the goal of everything, but we'll never lack of players, I guess, especially with, you know, all new technologies and console. I guess gaming is, you know, now popular. If we look back then in 10 years ago, I mean, who said I'm a gamer, right? And there's plenty of people that were proud of it, but it wasn't on the main scene, not as today. And I think it's just a great opportunity for the future.
Yeah, I think like TikTok, additional to Snapchat and instant games, is also emerging platform. But I think it's also connected with technologies that we're going to have in the future, because like 5-10 years ago we didn't have smartphones and App Store did not exist, and like all our controls were more like button based. Right now, like I'm not talking about consoles or actual arcade machines. So AR, VR, like glasses, rings, like I don't know, watches, etc. It will be affecting. So, but I don't think that this is a 2022 future. It's just the only remark. Yeah.
Did you warm up to ask more questions? There. See, it always works. I do the first and then they join in afterwards.
So I've got a question regarding like app stores and the Play Store. Do you think we'll ever see the rise of other platforms inside like iOS devices and inside like Android devices here in the West? Obviously in the East, in China, etc., they've got tons of different app stores. But do you think we'll see the rise of that over here?
No.
Yeah, they got a bit of a tight grip, don't they? The big players. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, apps within the apps. That's like what is instant games and so on. That's something what's happening, and I think even that was kind of like a fight so far for these kind of apps. But like a third-party app store, I think they were a lot of tries in the past, and a lot of companies even who were publishing in that area. But I never heard about something which was like really getting really big, let's say.
I think Netflix might have a chance, but they're tightly connected with App Store on their main business, so probably not. They will be part of part of App Store.
I think we've got
Yep,
a bit of last
that's
one.
it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.